In 2026, the meaning of military power has undergone a fundamental transformation, and yet public debate still clings to outdated images of strength defined by tanks rolling across borders or warplanes filling the sky. Real power today is rooted far deeper than visible hardware. It begins with economic endurance, the capacity of a nation to sustain prolonged competition without collapsing under its own financial weight. A country that cannot finance its defense commitments over decades, maintain stable currency systems, or manage public debt responsibly will eventually find that even the most advanced weapons become useless symbols rather than effective tools. Military strength, therefore, is not just manufactured in factories, it is constructed in central banks, industrial supply chains, and national labor markets. Technology has become another defining pillar of modern power. In 2026, superiority is increasingly measured by control over data, artificial intelligence systems, satellite networks, and cyber infrastructure. A nation that dominates information flows can disrupt enemy communications, anticipate battlefield movements, and influence public opinion across borders without firing a single shot. This form of power is quiet, invisible, and deeply embedded in civilian industries such as software development, telecommunications, and advanced research universities. The lines between civilian and military sectors have blurred, creating an environment where innovation in consumer technology directly shapes national security capabilities. Industrial capacity remains a critical factor that is often underestimated. Wars are not won solely by elite units or cutting edge prototypes. They are sustained by mass production, maintenance facilities, and logistical coordination. The ability to rapidly produce spare parts, replenish ammunition, repair damaged equipment, and scale manufacturing during emergencies determines whether a military can operate for weeks, months, or years. This capacity depends on skilled labor, reliable energy supplies, transportation infrastructure, and stable trade networks. Without these foundations, even technologically superior forces can become operationally fragile. Another dimension of power lies in social stability and workforce readiness. Military systems rely on engineers, technicians, analysts, and logistics planners as much as they rely on soldiers. Education systems that produce scientifically literate populations and vocational training programs that create skilled industrial workers become silent weapons in global competition. At the same time, public trust in institutions, political cohesion, and social unity influence a nation's willingness to support long term defense commitments. When internal divisions deepen and public confidence erodes, the effectiveness of military power weakens from within. Finally, strategic adaptability has become a central measure of strength. In an era of rapid technological change and unpredictable geopolitical shifts, rigid doctrines quickly become obsolete. Nations that can reform military structures, integrate new technologies, and adjust strategic priorities in response to emerging threats gain a decisive advantage. Flexibility in command structures, innovation in battlefield tactics, and openness to institutional reform allow military systems to evolve faster than their rivals. Power in 2026 is therefore not a static possession, but a dynamic process, constantly shaped by economic capacity, technological progress, industrial resilience, social stability, and the ability to adapt to an increasingly complex global environment. The contrast between the United States and Russia in 2026 is best understood not as a simple comparison of who has more weapons, but as a clash between two fundamentally different military doctrines shaped by history, geography, and economic structure. The United States operates on a model of global force projection. Its strategy is built around the ability to deploy power rapidly across continents, maintain permanent overseas bases, and sustain long distance operations through massive logistical networks. Aircraft carrier groups, long range bombers, refueling fleets, and satellite guided coordination systems allow the U.S. military to respond to crises thousands of miles from its own borders. This approach reflects America's role as a global power with international commitments, alliances, and economic interests spread across multiple regions. Russia's doctrine, by contrast, is rooted in strategic deterrence and regional control. Rather than attempting to match the United States in worldwide military presence, Russia has focused on making direct confrontation extremely costly. Its emphasis on nuclear deterrence, advanced missile systems, layered air defenses, and electronic warfare capabilities is designed to protect its core territory and surrounding strategic zones. Geography plays a decisive role here. With vast land borders and proximity to potential flashpoints, Russia prioritizes defense in depth strategies that can absorb pressure while discouraging escalation through the threat of overwhelming retaliation. Asymmetric warfare has become a central feature of Russia's military approach. Instead of relying solely on conventional troop numbers or expensive global deployments, Russia invests in tools that can offset Western technological advantages at lower cost. Cyber operations, information warfare, electronic jamming, and precision strike systems allow Russia to disrupt adversaries without engaging in full scale traditional conflict. This approach reflects an understanding that modern warfare is not confined to battlefields, but extends into digital networks, media ecosystems, and economic infrastructure. The American doctrine, meanwhile, places heavy emphasis on coalition warfare and interoperability. U.S. military planning assumes coordination with allied forces, shared intelligence platforms, and standardized equipment systems that allow multinational operations to function efficiently. This creates a force multiplier effect, enabling the United States to project influence through partnerships rather than acting alone. However, this also introduces complexity, requiring political alignment, diplomatic coordination, and shared strategic priorities that can slow decision making and limit operational flexibility. Both doctrines reveal underlying vulnerabilities. The U.S. model depends on secure global supply chains, stable international alliances, and uninterrupted access to energy and trade routes. Any disruption to these systems can weaken its ability to sustain prolonged operations abroad. Russia's model, while more regionally focused and cost efficient, faces limitations in scaling power beyond its immediate sphere of influence and in accessing advanced technologies restricted by international sanctions. These contrasting strategies illustrate that military competition in 2026 is not about identical arsenals, but about divergent philosophies of power, each shaped by economic capacity, political structure, and long term strategic priorities. At the core of every military system lies an economic structure that determines how long a nation can sustain competition, conflict, and strategic pressure. In 2026, The comparison between the United States and Russia reveals how deeply military power is tied to financial models, production systems, and resource management. The United States operates within a defense economy heavily influenced by private corporations, long term government contracts, and a continuous cycle of innovation driven by profit incentives. This system encourages rapid technological development, large scale research funding, and close collaboration between universities, technology firms, and defense manufacturers. However, it also creates a dependency on high levels of public spending and debt financing, raising questions about long term fiscal sustainability and the political influence of corporate interests on defense priorities. Russia's economic model, by contrast, relies more heavily on centralized state control and domestically focused production networks. The Russian government plays a direct role in guiding military industrial activity, prioritizing strategic sectors, and allocating resources according to national security objectives rather than market profitability alone. This approach allows for tighter coordination between political leadership and defense manufacturing, enabling faster shifts in production priorities during periods of crisis. It also emphasizes cost efficiency, producing weapon systems that are less expensive to manufacture and maintain, which supports prolonged operational capacity even under economic pressure. Energy resources represent another critical factor shaping military strength. The United States benefits from diversified energy production and advanced extraction technologies, which provide relative stability and reduce vulnerability to external supply disruptions. Russia, on the other hand, leverages its vast energy reserves as both an economic foundation and a geopolitical tool. Revenue from oil and gas exports supports state budgets, including military spending, while energy partnerships influence diplomatic relationships and regional power dynamics. These resource strategies directly affect each nation's ability to finance defense operations and maintain economic resilience under international pressure. Labor markets and workforce development further illustrate the economic foundations of military power. The United States draws on a large pool of highly specialized engineers, software developers, and research scientists who contribute to advanced weapon systems and digital warfare capabilities. This advantage is supported by educational institutions and private sector innovation ecosystems. Russia emphasizes technical training and industrial specialization within state supported sectors, ensuring a steady supply of skilled workers for defense manufacturing and maintenance. Both systems depend on human capital as much as on physical resources. Finally, the broader economic environment shapes public tolerance for military spending. Inflation, wage stagnation, social inequality, and infrastructure needs compete with defense budgets for government attention. When economic pressures rise, political support for prolonged military investment can weaken, limiting strategic options. The economic backbone of military power is therefore not static. It shifts with market conditions, resource availability, labor productivity, and political priorities, making economic stability one of the most decisive factors in determining long term military strength. In 2026, technology and alliances have become the most powerful force multipliers in modern warfare, transforming how nations project influence and defend their interests. The United States has invested heavily in artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, space based surveillance, and advanced command and control networks that connect soldiers, aircraft, ships, and satellites into a single digital battlefield. This interconnected structure allows for faster decision making, real time intelligence sharing, and coordinated multi domain operations across land, sea, air, space, and cyberspace. The ability to integrate vast amounts of data into operational planning has reshaped military strategy, making information superiority just as important as physical firepower. Cyber warfare has emerged as another decisive technological domain. Attacks on communication systems, financial networks, and critical infrastructure can weaken an adversary without direct military engagement. Both the United States and Russia have developed sophisticated cyber capabilities designed to disrupt enemy operations, gather intelligence, and influence public opinion. These digital tools allow states to operate below the threshold of traditional warfare, creating constant strategic pressure without triggering full scale conflict. In this environment, the battlefield is no longer limited to physical territory, but extends into virtual spaces that affect economies, governments, and civilian life. Alliances amplify technological advantages by expanding access to resources, intelligence, and regional influence. The United States benefits from a network of military partnerships that include shared defense planning, joint training exercises, and interoperable equipment systems, NATO, regional security agreements, and bilateral partnerships allow American military power to operate through collective strength rather than unilateral action. This networked approach extends surveillance coverage, improves logistical support, and increases political legitimacy for military operations. At the same time, it creates a complex web of coordination that requires diplomatic alignment and shared strategic goals. Russia's alliance strategy follows a different model. Rather than relying on large formal defense blocs, Russia emphasizes strategic partnerships, regional cooperation agreements, and flexible security arrangements. These relationships allow Russia to maintain influence in key regions while avoiding the political obligations and financial costs associated with large alliance structures. Russia also leverages arms exports and military training programs as tools of diplomatic engagement, strengthening ties with partner states and expanding its geopolitical footprint. The combination of technology and alliances reshapes the balance of power by reducing the importance of traditional troop numbers and territorial control. A smaller force equipped with advanced sensors, precision guided weapons, and real time intelligence can outperform larger conventional armies. Similarly, a nation supported by multiple allied partners gains strategic depth that extends beyond its own borders. This shift forces military planners to think in terms of networks rather than individual units, ecosystems rather than isolated capabilities, and cooperation rather than unilateral dominance, redefining what it means to hold power in the modern global security environment. Internal stability has become one of the most decisive yet underestimated factors in determining long term national power in 2026. Military dominance may capture headlines, but history consistently demonstrates that nations collapse not only from external pressure, but from internal fractures that weaken their economic, political, and social foundations. When public trust in institutions declines, when inequality deepens, and when political polarization intensifies, the ability of a state to mobilize resources and maintains strategic focus begins to erode. Stability at home directly influences a country's capacity to project strength abroad.